Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome to our car.
No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Ride along with us.
Sweet as. How you going?
Pretty good. It's been a nice last few weeks, but all's well over here.
So how do you know Joe Weeby?
Oh well. Anyway, how I know Joe is he's my brother's one of his good mates, but I didn't actually know Joe personally until It was during the week. It was midweek when I just quit my law job. And I was going to the Sydney Writers' Festival at about 11 a.m. And then I bumped into him on the street around Wynyard. And I knew who he was. He knew who I was. We just had a chat. And then he just talked about how he was running the Constant Student. I don't know if you guys know that community. And he heard about what I was doing through Jamie. He's my brother. And then, he just said, get around it. And then through that sort of kept in touch with Joe for like the last couple of years. So it's been really cool to sort of interact with him.
That's sick. So you said you were doing law before?
Yeah, so I studied journalism and law at university. I was at UTS. And I studied for almost 6 years or something like that. And then I did my PLT, which makes you qualified to become a lawyer, and then I practiced I think for almost 3 years or something like that. And then I resigned just before that big momentous March 2020 event with COVID, and then since then pretty much I've been going down this new path, which is pretty much all the things in travel, but I don't know what I even call myself. Travel blogger, travel photographer, writer, sometimes.
What was the catalyst for you leaving the kind of standardized law firm and climbing the corporate ladder life to travel vlogging and pursuing your dreams?
I don't think I ever had any desire to sort of climb the ladder. I remember when I was with my careers counsellor, someone said to me, these are your sort of the areas that you're excelling in, so you should maybe think about doing law. And I got really good marks at school, so it was almost like a natural fit to, if you did well in the humanities and you got a reasonably high score and you were semi-articulate, which is still questionable for me, then you could go down that path of law. I mean, we didn't really know what was going on until I guess I walked into the law firm the first day as a paralegal, and I was told to do certain tasks I didn't know the answers to. But fundamentally travel was always something I loved. And I did that pretty much all from university all the way up till like now, which is, let's say we're approaching 11 years of doing that pretty regularly every single year, and some years being away the whole year. It was a pretty easy decision. I knew I was never probably going to stay there long term. It was always a decision for me that I would make. It was just, I don't know what to do after law. But I was just going to give it a go and give it a shake. And still to this day, where I am right now is because I'm just having a go. It's sort of the situation.
So it's just over 2 years for you that you've been traveling for, yeah?
Well, I left for Sri Lanka and I was there for a couple of weeks, then COVID hit. So then I ended up coming back to Australia with the lockdown and the hard border and international travel being off the cards. I spent most of that year actually traveling internally in Australia, and then some of it I was in quarantine because we couldn't do anything. It was sort of in that five kilometre radius. But then on November last year, the first day of the international border opening, I'd previously applied, I think 4 times for an exemption. I did a stat deck 4 times. Initially it was like, if you did 3 months or more away, they would usually give you a yes, like you can leave. And I said, I'm doing this, I have sufficient funds, and I want to go work. I want to go get out of here. And I just kept changing it from, I think I started with 5 months. I went a year, then I went 2 years, and I said, I'm not coming back. And they still rejected it. So on the first day, they opened up, which is November the 1st. I booked a flight, went straight to Mexico City, and then smack bang into Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead festival. And then since then, up until right now, which is, I think we're looking at maybe a year and half a month. I've been away ever since, just like running through whatever opportunity comes my way. So it's been a pretty crazy ride, but
Oh, that's awesome.
That's so sick, man. Was there any resistance when you told like your friends and family what you wanted to do?
no, the funny thing, what everybody always used to say was I'd go out with my mates, or we'd go to a cafe or some sort, and I'd meet people for the first time. And I'm not the sort of guy that ever wears, I guess what I'm trying to say is I typically wear party shirts, or I just dress very casually. I'm not into the suit game or anything like that. And even just the way that I would talk to people, no one could ever guess that I would work in law. Most people actually said I was either graphic design or photography or something like that. And I think like in that regard, it was pretty easy for me. I'm pretty headstrong with the things and decisions I make, so I don't really think too much about what other people, how they're perceiving me. It was more always an internal conversation I had to have. Do I feel comfortable with what I'm doing? Do I feel embarrassed? Like I won't even lie to you. I used to meet people for the first time, and they'd be like, the conversation always trickles down to, what do you do for work? And I'd say, oh, I'm a lawyer. And they're like, oh, for someone who doesn't do law, or someone who maybe did law but liked it, they would say, this is like such a great job, like you're killing it, et cetera, et cetera. And I was always really embarrassed to say it, honestly, like so embarrassed to say that I was a lawyer, because I just felt like a bit of a phony. I didn't like it at all. And so when I, obviously ended up telling, friends and family that I was quitting, it was everyone sort of knew. I'm pretty honest with how I feel about certain situations, and that was the same. I think most people knew that it was not going to be a long-term prospect, but it always had a shelf life at some point in time, and I sort of reached that, I reached that catharsis at that point in time, and just said, I have to change what I'm doing to make myself, feel a lot better.
So why do you think you went into it if you had those feelings towards it?
Your gut always tells you something. I always listen to that. Equally, just if you think about what gets you going, right? Like, you guys love the podcast. You do it partly because it's, it could be going towards a certain goal, but also fundamentally it adds meaning to your life, right? And for me, I go into the office and I'd have a really nice team. I really enjoyed the hours. I really enjoyed the people that I was meeting, but it didn't give me that motivation or meaning for what I was doing. I didn't really connect, so I would never work harder, I guess, than I needed to. If you like something, you're gonna put in those extra hours, and I was doing the job fine. I'd always do the job well, but it was never that, you don't have that sense of, well, let me just go even harder and do extra stuff because I really want to elevate my game to a new level. I was always just sort of happy with what I was doing, but I wasn't pushing boundaries. And for me, fundamentally, when I'm not interested in the thing, I don't do it that well. For me personally, I think it's still probably at a standard that everyone's really content with, but I just internally don't feel happy about it.
No, 100%. I think I always say with work ethic, there has to be desire. Anyone that has desires will be able to output so much more in whatever it is they're doing. What was kind of the process for you to recognize? And do you think you're good at recognizing when your heart isn't in something?
Yeah, it's easy. It's a care factor thing. I'm one of those guys is when you get my 100%, well, you're going to have a good time. When you get 0, maybe not so much. But yeah, I think it's easy for me to recognise. I'm more of a feel person. I know how I am, and I can acknowledge that. Part of it is because I do a lot of writing, and I don't lie to myself about those feelings anymore, and I don't think it's a good idea to do that. If you suppress it enough, you can turn that into a routine where you accept that a certain feeling that's coming in your body is normal, and you normalise that, and then you get nowhere. You have to, if you're not feeling good about a certain situation because fundamentally it maybe doesn't agree with you, but you continue to suppress that, a lot of the time you forget, and then you go down this sort of rabbit hole where you have that, moment where you're like, shit, what am I doing?
Definitely. There's so much numbness, and over such a long time of doing it, the feeling and the weight just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. But you also get used to it because it's the life you've been kind of living for X amount of time. I'm always so afraid of getting caught in that loop and like getting caught doing something I don't want to be doing.
Yeah, because I feel like you were saying, Matt, it's probably a good skill that you have being either 100 or 0. Because someone like maybe myself, I think I definitely do this, is like, I'll just say yes to things. And then you just get stuck in like, do I actually want to be doing this? Because maybe it's just my curiosity feeding the fact that I want to try something new. But it's like, am I actually giving my 100 to this? And it's like, if not, then maybe I shouldn't actually do it. You know what I mean? But for you, it's like, if you're willing to put 100 into something or just not do it, I feel like that's just easy. And you just don't have to make any decisions.
Yeah, it's not in many ways, it is also the pitfalls of how I am as a person. But, maybe I wish I could balance that a little bit better. But I just know how I do things typically, and it usually goes down that avenue. And I guess that's what sort of makes, how that sort of defines how you operate and how you are as a person, both on a professional and personal level. But yeah, just being a bit more acutely aware of how you are makes it a lot easier in the long run when you're, in these situations where you decide, well, okay, I'm not going to go for a traditional structured life. I'll maybe try to go down a different avenue. But it's horses for courses. I always say that. I never recommend anyone to do something that I've done. I just say that I'm an example of, if you have a desire to do something, it's possible to go do it. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to, become the big dog in whatever field you're trying to pursue, but you can definitely be more content, and there's not that feeling of the regret that you have, and that's the only thing that sort of drives me to put myself in these uncomfortable situations, because I think I'd be more uncomfortable sitting in an office thinking, well, I had that period of time where I could have had a go. It may not have worked out, and maybe I realise I have to come back, but I'm super pleased with the fact that I did give it a try.
That's so sick. So what is the past year been like for you?
Oh, magic in every sense of the word. You can already say, like, big smile. That's definitive of the experience, and it's been really diverse. I started in Mexico City, so Day of the Dead, enormous festival surrounded by people, and I spent 6 months in Mexico to begin with, partly by choice, partly by circumstance. Somebody actually nicked my passport, and I didn't get the replacement one for 2 months, so I ended up just pushing it out. And then after that, I flew to Uzbekistan, and I spent 6 months, close to 6 months in Central Asia, through Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and that was, wow. If you want to go to a remote place in the world, or you want to go somewhere where there's not many tourists, you pick that place, and it's just pristine, untouched. They're all their own unique locations, and I think, for most people who are trying to find a place that is, or to go somewhere that's a little bit different to your traditional Europe.
So how did that come about, that opportunity?
Yeah, like pretty random, actually. So there's a guy who works up. He works in this expedition company as the CCO, the Chief Commercial Officer, and I met him actually in person. He was following my Instagram account, and he was sort of seeing the content that I was making, and a lot of the things that I've been doing recently probably focus more around storytelling about the interactions with people rather than just really nice pictures. And that's something that he really enjoyed. He'd always he'd comment on my things, and even when I had a conversation with him about it, that was the aspect that he really liked about what I was doing. But I saw that he was working for this, he'd changed companies he was working for, and he was working for this one that do polar expeditions. And I just said, you know what, like, I'll just message this guy and see if he'd be open to some sort of way I can get down there. And yeah, he said, like, without even hesitation, he said, yep, let's do 2 expeditions, like come down and you can do South Georgia and the Falklands.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
How do you go about choosing the countries?
To be honest, it's just wherever I want to go. Sometimes I have a list of places I like to go visit, and they sort of move order a lot of the time. I'm pretty firm believer in not trying to see as many countries as possible, but just aiming for quality rather than quantity, because that's, I mean, I don't know if that how common it is for you guys, but I can spend as long as I want in a place, and that's really the difference. So yeah, I just go off interest and conversations with people. Sometimes they might say, "Oh, this is really cool around this period of the time of the year. You should think about it." And I, put in my notes, or I have a little book that I write about certain things, and I do that. But yeah, it's sort of just where I just follow the nose, and then go to the next destination.
Do you feel like you have because you're obviously saying you want to stay in certain countries, and for as long as you want, do you feel like you develop a sense of home at some of these places? Because I feel like I'm just assuming when people travel, it's like you may lose that sense of home, but for you, staying in certain areas for long periods of time, it's like you kind of develop that sense of, this is like my home for the short term.
Well, I think for me now, home is with the people that I meet. It's a lot deeper. The style of travel for me has changed so much. I think before I really just cared about going to places that were really, I don't know, just naturally beautiful. And that was the big sell for me when I was going to places. I mean, I was actually here in Argentina in 2016, and I went down to Patagonia and also to the Galapagos Islands, and that was just, its own unique experience in itself. But this year, the way that I want to travel and the way that I have been traveling has been slow, but it's been more concentrated on the people.
Do you find it hard when you'll be doing, because you're obviously doing stuff that you want to be doing, so it's almost like making the divide between, I'm doing the stuff I want to be doing, but I actually still need to take time for myself? That's almost like, you've kind of alluded to it now, but I just find it interesting, with us doing this now, it's just in doing something you enjoy is almost taking time for yourself anyway, because you're doing something you enjoy doing, but at the same time it still wears you out, so you need to do other things as well. What sort of stuff are you doing outside of creating that is time for yourself, I guess? Your days off, what do they look like?
Oh, look, to be honest, it's weird. It's just pretty much doing what I already am doing, but just not having to document or record anything.
Exactly, yeah. So it's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's you're mixing pleasure with work, which is a dangerous thing sometimes, because I think some people like the idea of it more than they like the reality of it. But I think more of it's just when it'd be the same as, if you guys are, you go on a holiday, right? Most people are going just to have the holiday, and they're like, I'm absolutely stoked to be here. This is incredible. I can go have a coffee. I can go read a book. I can go walk into a museum, go sit in the park. And they're all things that I really enjoy, reading, going hiking. But if there's no added factor of having to say, well, that's how I derive my livelihood, then you can just enjoy. I mean, I'm in a different place most of the time, or I have the opportunity to just say, all right, well, I'm going to Google this, or I'm just going to go for a walk and see what happens. That's what I did just this morning. So it's not the same as most people, but I just have to try to find some sort of normality in what I'm doing. But a lot of it is just being conscious of the fact that it's not a right to be able to do what I'm doing. I know a lot of other people would kill to be a lawyer and kill to have security, and I'm always aware of that, and that makes me appreciate my situation a lot more. And as long as you can do that, then you can do it really well. And I don't feel bad about what I'm doing, because there are plenty of other people who don't like what they're doing, but they choose to be in the office because they want the security, or they just don't know what to do next. I'm just an example of someone who said, well, let me put myself in a really uncomfortable position, but maybe I could have some fun and see where it could take me.
That's sick. And speaking of the reality of it, what is portrayed on social media is quite often the glamorous side of things. What is the reality of traveling the world living out of, I assume, a backpack for a year away from your friends, your family? What are the struggles you go through on a day-to-day?
Oh, I mean, my life's a joke. I think the part of it is I'm always just laughing, because I got mates who have just gotten engaged, they're getting married, they're having kids, they're buying homes. I'm super happy for them, and I'm laughing all the time, because I always say, they're like, oh, where are you, Matt? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sweating, I'm absolutely saturated, my back is soaked, I've been walking 2 hours trying to figure out how to get to hitchhike with this bloke in the back of his animal truck so I can get to the next city. I think the non-glamorous side has something to do with not having a consistent base sometimes when you're having to decide where can I stay or what am I going to do next. Everything starts and finishes with you. You're the captain of your ship, but sometimes you get decision fatigue. There's also that idea of, you see other people who have if you're working something a bit more secure, you don't have those, physiological needs or you don't have to satisfy them so much as you would, I guess, in my situation. Then there's also, I guess, finding consistent work and trying to do that as well. But I think, to be honest, if I'm really honest about the challenges, I actually like to document them. But I always do it in tongue-in-cheek, take the piss out of it, because it makes me enjoy it a lot more. Like the amount of times that I've been screwed over or stuffed up or something bad's happened to me, getting bed bugs or, someone doing something bad by me and not paying me for the work that I did. That there are moments where you're just like, this is ridiculous. But if you don't have a laugh about it, you're in strife. But I try to just document it all the time, just to show that I want people to know that when they're watching my content, that it's not, you're not just watching the highlight reel. You're also watching the shitty situation that I get into. But I actually just try to actively, try to make it fun. But yeah, there are many times where I've slept in the airport. I haven't gone to sleep, period. Bad things sometimes find their way to you, but a lot of it's attitude and response, and that's really pivotal. Does that answer, or do you want me to go more into something with the actual specifics of examples of bad, potentially non-glamorous?
Yeah, no, if you're happy to go in, I would love to hear some.
Washing. That's one of the big ones is washing. A lot of the time you're walking around with very dirty clothes. I'll give you an example of something that is really difficult, and I was quite frustrated about it. In Argentina, there is, I don't know how much you guys or your audience knows about it, but the economy is facing some difficulty right now, and for foreigners, especially here, there's challenges withdrawing money out of the ATMs or just getting money, period. And at one point in time, I couldn't withdraw any money, so I had no money, and I was entirely relying on the goodness of other people to keep me, in that position where I could just stay. It was couch surfing. One of the girls, she pretty much saved my ass because she gave me a little bit of loose change, just some notes just to keep me going, and then helped me find a solution. So there are some times where you're not sure maybe if you're going to actually be able to eat. It's not maybe potentially because of a lack of money, but it could be just a circumstance. And a lot of that is the challenge when you're going to a new country. Maybe you don't speak the language, or maybe there's an economic issue, safety issue sometimes. I've met a lot of people who have had issues with, feeling comfortable and safe in countries. So they are the realities of it. But as long as you have a resilient-ish attitude, it's usually okay.
Yeah. Where do you think you build this resilience from? Because I feel that if a lot of other people are in that situation where they have no access to their money, they aren't eating food, a lot of people would just think, why not just go home? I have the ability to. Nothing's keeping me here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there are moments sometimes what am I doing? What am I doing with this? As I said, but I just sort of all I do is I just keep reminding myself that life is just a joke. If you think about it, if you just go back to that, everything's really easy, because, a lot of people are really serious about, you quit your law job and you're going over here and you're living on people's couches, or you're, eating street food. And, I'm doing my own thing, but I also like the fact that as long as you don't take it seriously, I think it's really easy to be resilient, because you don't let things phase you, or if you do, you just think, well, that could be another cool story, I can talk about it later. And so far, nothing has killed me. I mean, I'm touching wood right now, you can't see it, but it's usually it's just more experiences and stories under your belt to talk over a beer. And I think at the same time, I don't know who it was, I'm just going to probably sound really corny when I try to explain this. It's like, imagine, there's someone very famous who said this, so I'm just going to botch it completely, but it's like, imagine someone telling you a story of your life, but they say, hey, you like got into this job and then you worked, or whatever you want to do. Yeah, you did this, it went really smoothly, and then you grew old, you met someone you really liked, and then you died. And a lot of people are like, well, that was a pretty boring story. It's not that exciting or exhilarating. But then I think about what the hell has been happening in my life, and I like the story. So I might not know where it's going to get me, but I'm very pleased with the interactions with people. Fundamentally, it's always about the people for me, and the narrative that's happened so far is quite cool. I mean, a lot of people don't even know yet that I'm in Antarctica because I haven't even shared it on social.
Yeah, no, yeah. What have, like, obviously with travel, there becomes a potential, like, potential threats and, like, I guess danger based off circumstances that you can't control. Do you have, like, I'm sure you have plenty, but do you have any standout stories or anything from your travels that have, like, been, like, you've been in real danger?
I don't know if it's real danger, but I just thought to myself, whoa, you need to be a little bit more careful next time. The most recent one was I was at the border of Uzbekistan and Afghanistan, and I was recording like part of my vlog, but I did it from, there's a bridge, they call it the Friendship Bridge, which is ironic, but I was filming from probably 200 meters away, and they couldn't see what I was doing, but I was filming myself. I wasn't even actually facing them. And I got escorted to the border between the two. I think it was still the territory of Uzbekistan, but I got stuck in this room. They took all my cameras, and I basically just sat there. Nobody knew where I was. And I couldn't speak to them. I had to wait for this guy to come in and do the translation. They were questioning to find out whether I was a spy because I speak, Spanish. I had all my camera gear, and they were looking at like me online and asking what my religion was and what my intentions were. And they saw I had a drone, and surveillance in Uzbekistan is just they're very anal about not recording or getting any information about what they're doing around the perimeter. But it was a bit of a wake-up call, just thinking, well, geez, I have no say right now. I could disappear in an instant. I did still feel fairly in control, and ended up getting out of it. But it was just sort of those moments where you think, I joke around a lot, but sometimes you do need to be a little bit serious in those circumstances where you're not gonna, talk smack to people. But the funny thing was, at the end of it, they asked me for my Instagram, and they gave me recommendations for food because they were like, it'd be good for you.
What the
No way.
What a switch.
You just shit on me the whole time, and I felt quite nervous. And now you go, go there for a really good somsa and some lagman, and I'll.
Just confused.
That's wild.
Yeah.
In those moments, that must be so hard to kind of, trust. I think, like, being a lawyer, I assume you have a level of trust in the system, at least back here in Australia. But when you're over there, like, what are you relying on? Because there's nothing to say that you wouldn't just disappear in that moment.
Yeah, a lot of it is just using your brain. One of the things I learned to do, I don't know where, maybe don't do it super well at the, still it's a thing it's like a muscle. You got to, get working on it. Whenever something really bad happens or something that takes me back or I'm not prepared for it, I just sort of think, okay, like, don't panic, think of the solution. How can you fix it? Don't lose your cool, because it's the same as most people who are dealing with pressure. When you let it overcome you're done. Whereas you think, okay, let me take a step back for a second. It's not a good situation, or it's not what I want to be. This is not where I want to be right now. How can I get an answer to it? And a lot of it comes down to writing it down, or I have a close select bunch of people who know everything about me, and I can just have a call to them, and that's really good, just as a sounding board. But yeah, it's a lot of it is just trust yourself. I trust myself entirely to make a good decision. And over time, you know, if you spend this much time alone, which I've always done, I've pretty much always done solo travel. I love it, but you have to trust your gut a lot of the time, and you're basically the decision maker. So, you know, something bad happens, it's probably your fault.
That's so sick, man. I think like to do what you're doing is such a cool thing that so many people dream of doing but never pull the trigger on.
Yeah, it's for me, I said it earlier, but it is a really important thing to say. I don't have any advice for anyone to ever do something. I don't want to, because it's your story, it's your situation and how you are. Maybe you don't need to make a big drastic change like I did. Maybe you just need to be in a different lane, and that starts maybe working in the same field or a different field, or working in a new company because you just need to see change. But for me, it required that. I don't know where this adventure is going to take me, but I'm super excited and I'm happy to have a go. And know if this doesn't for some reason work out for me, it's not a failure. It just means I'm pivoting. And that's the one thing I learned. It was really fundamental to me, actually accepting what I'm doing. Because there are a lot of people out there with enormous accounts who have enormous connections. You know, I met on this boat this guy that works for National Geographic. I met people who are established in their fields, who are, you know, very successful in their own right. But I'm just this guy who wanted to do something he cared about and wanted to have a try, and he just did it. You know, that's the story I want, is people to relate to the fact that it can be an ordinary bloke or ordinary human, and you can have a try, and it doesn't have to be in travel. That's the beauty of the message. And I'm just, if anyone ever has like a desire to make the change, like, or is worried about making a change, like, they can message me. I'm really accessible. I mean, don't ask me to do it for you, because I can't, but you know, I'm always, what I want to be there is for people to know that you can do it. And, you know, if you have doubts about it, you know, hit me up.
That's so sick. So, like, monetary wise, do you have a source of income at the moment? Obviously the odd jobs you're doing here and there, but do you have a steady source?
I don't know if it's steady. Like, most of it is I guess what I call myself right now is like a freelance. So the way that I can sort of eat and sleep comes from right now mostly it's photography and like the writing, so in travel writing. And then I do random odd jobs all the time where I might be, you know, I interact with a lot of digital nomads, and sometimes they ask for stills of them or their work so that they can put up on their website or social media. Or someone might need help with specifically like content creation, and I can do that. And then also writing articles with pictures. That is another way to sort of sustain myself. But I'm always, I mean, that's the challenge always, right? It's how can you find a steady source of income? And I'm still early on in this whole area, so I'd love to work with all these other companies and, you know, have an easier base of connections where I can just say, hey, how's it going? But I'm super new to it. But for now, it's going okay. Like, it's a slow burn process. You can't try to rush it. And equally, the opportunities that have happened recently have sort of shifted my attention in certain ways to concentrate on other things. But now that I'm actually back on land, I have a massive amount of content that I just need to type up and edit pictures and send them all out. And fingers crossed, people want to read it or want to have a piece of it. And that, yeah, I guess, yeah, the more people that see it, there's maybe more opportunities that come through it.
Yeah, like you've been putting in the reps, and I think like you said, it's just about, you just putting in as much time as you can into those things, getting better through experience. With your writing, like you mentioned, you you write a lot of, like, you write articles, you may attach pictures to those. What do you do any other forms of writing, or is it just through articles?
Before, you mean in a monetary sense or just for me?
Anything, man. Yeah, anything for you, monetary, anything.
Yeah, I've always written. Before I started doing the vlogging thing, I actually wrote a travel diary every single day of every single trip. So I think in Mexico, if my memory serves me correct, I wrote 300 pages of type 12 font from 4 months of traveling.
My goodness.
If you read that, you would know everything about me and all my thoughts, which I'm not prepared to share to anyone. It will go with me to the grave. The same as all my other travels. I think when I went to Everest Base Camp and did the hike there, I wrote almost 50 pages of my experience. Yeah, so the writing is always there. That's not for anyone. That one is actually just for me to remember. You will love this. Sometimes, should I even say this?
Yeah,
you should.
No one's gonna hold it against. No one's gonna hold it against me except the rest of the people that listen to it. I used to sit when I go to the toilet sometimes in the office. I would be like, I'm just not enjoying this, and I pull out my phone and go to my travel diary from I don't know, when I was in South America, and I just read through all the log, and I feel so much better after it. Come out and I'll be like, wow, I can't believe I'm that.
That's crazy, man. That's massive. That's so meaningful though. And look at you now. Like, that should give you like a really good sense of like, I am where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. I'm honest. The biggest change in a feeling sense was, I think a lot of people used to say after I started doing this, they said, do you feel really happy? And I said, no, happiness is not really the word I would use to describe how I'm feeling. I'd say I feel calm. And calm for me is doing something honestly and doing it well and feeling comfortable with what you're doing and trusting that what you're doing is going to take you to where you should be going. And I feel calm now. Every step of what I've been doing.
There's a sense of peace that comes with it and liberation. I think 12 months ago I was working as a mechanic 5 days a week, knowing I didn't want to be a mechanic, and leaving that and starting to pursue this stuff, it is that calmness, it's that peace, liberation, waking up, not having this stress of, man, I'm doing something I don't want to be doing. And when you actually find that and when you can live that reality, it's the best reality in my opinion.
It's contentment. And sometimes it's like, well, that's the way I feel it. Like the way you described it in terms of calmness, I definitely feel it in terms of content. Like I feel as an individual, I guess, like I can share experiences with others. Me doing what I'm doing, it's just that contentment of feeling I am in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you get swayed, like you said, sometimes you're traveling just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, where am I? But then you come back to that sense of peace and just like, no, like this is what I should be doing. And you may have those moments where it could be like, for you, it's obviously you're sitting around a dinner table with a family being like, wow, like if I didn't take this step, I wouldn't be here right now. For us, it could just be simply just like, well, for me, sometimes I'm just sitting there editing something. I'm just like, this is so sick. This is not where I thought I would be, but it's where I've just followed, I guess, my heart. But yeah, dude, like to I guess segue back to the writing, like that is crazy to hear that you can write like that much about an experience.
Trust me. It also astounds me that I can have that much crap in my head that I'm prepared to actually put it on a piece of paper. And I would never share this with anyone. This is something that even if I had a partner, like I'm not sharing that with anyone. None of my friends can read it. I might read a segment of it being like, explaining that moment because it would trigger memories. But yeah, that's just for me. It's so raw, unfiltered, and blunt. It is mostly thought. It's mostly thought, and you when you put that into the world, you can't take it back. You know how it works. Part of it is it can be good because it can be pick and choose at the end when I want to turn it into something like long term, I guess, if I was to maybe publish something. But that, to be honest, is just for me, and it was always just for me. It's like one of my own little naughty things I can have for myself that no one else can have. You know, you take your pictures, but you can still probably share them online. I record all these vlogs of me eating food, but people are going to watch it. This writing is not for anyone else. It's just about me, and it's my way of having it, having an outlet. But it's one thing I haven't been able to do for a while now because I'm stuck doing other stuff. But it's just the nature of the beast. I have to be adaptive. I still enjoy the writing aspect of it, but it just has to take a different form for now. You have to prioritize sometimes, and maybe for the same. I don't know if it's. You tell me what you think, but with this like calmness, there's not so many voices in the head telling you, maybe doubting yourself or telling you things you need to do. There's some sort of clarity you get amidst the excitement.
100%, man. 100%. It is that insane level of clarity of just knowing it's right, knowing you don't know the process, you don't know the road and where it's going to take you, but you just know that you're on the road. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of times where, you know, you just feel like you're slogging it through a jungle with a machete and you're like, where the hell is this going? Yeah.
I think the beauty, like personally, the beauty for me comes in the unknown. So like I've always, you know, known where the next step is. But it's like, I always think of this analogy. Have you seen, I know you haven't. Have you seen, you know, Indiana Jones, like all the Indiana Jones movies? You've watched them all, like you know them? Oh, shame. In the third movie, there's a scene where he has to take a leap of faith. And it's like, but he can't see, it's like an optical illusion almost. And he can't see, there's just like the other end of the canyon, and he needs to sort of like walk to there, but there's no path. And the idea is there's a path there, but you just can't see it. So he has to just take a step out, put his foot down, and he does it, lands his foot on the path, and like the camera changes, and then you can see the bridge. It's just that when you're standing in front of it, you can't see it. So it's almost like I always think of that because there's something about the unknown that is so, like, it just has this pull. Like, I just want to be a part of it, you know what I mean? And like you said, similar to the machete thing, it's just like just chopping through these leaves, not knowing where you are, but you know paradise is behind that. You just don't know what it looks like. And that feeling of just like going towards that is just, it's exhilarating.
Well, it goes hand in hand with the saying that fortune favors the brave. And a lot of it is exactly what you both just said in your experiences and your analogies. It's, you know, just try it, and maybe instead of it being a poor outcome or a negative outcome or something that you don't want to happen, maybe it will be the opposite to that. It's the attitude and the response to how you perceive that. And if you embrace it, well, maybe you're going to end up doing something pretty good.
100%. That's so sick, man. Have you seen Hot Ones? On that like chicken wing eating show on YouTube?
Hot Ones?
No. Oh, Hot Ones. Yeah. Sorry, Hot Ones. Yeah.
So on Hot Ones, they do explain that gram, which basically you just like go on the guest Instagram and pull interesting pictures that need more context. So Kyle and I scrolled down and chose out those. So if you want to say one word to describe the story.
I'm one of those people who just can chew someone's ear off if they need me to, but I'll try to synthesize. All right, beautiful. So I'll go from, all right, the first one's a car, right? All right, so here we have me having to do a border crossing. This is actually a pretty interesting one because this day I got invited the night before at like, I think it was like 1 a.m. I got a message from this girl that I met. She was living in Almaty as well. I was introduced to her through another friend, and she's like, oh, hey, do you want to come on this like road trip? And I said, well, when are you leaving? She's like, oh, it's 7 a.m. I was out having beers, and you know, I was like, oh, I've got to do my border crossing as well. So yeah, let's go. So I ended up going with her with another guy, and we ended up meeting this. We stayed at another girl's house in the sticks, complete sticks. She invited us into her family home. We had like heaps of meals together, and then we went out to this. What is the name of the place? It would be good if I could remember the name of the place. In any event, the main interesting part about it was I had to do the border crossing, but it was in the most rogue location between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, that when I crossed the border, there was no... I was going to just cross and come back just to renew my visa. I stood there, and I said, okay, well, now I'm just going to walk back in and come back. And they're like, oh, no, you got to wait here for 20 minutes. So I just stood there. I was this one bloke, dead set, no lies. One bloke with the mountains behind me, and it was just me standing there. And I waited there for 20 minutes. Then I was like, I kept going to the guy, like, can I come back now? And he's like, no. And so I just kept standing there for a while. Eventually, they let me back. We went in this guy's car. We had fried fish from this random shop and drove out to this lake. And so that's what the car is symbolic of. The one after that is... This is I went to this really interesting plateau. It's a space observatory, but I ended up going there through a work opportunity with this Kazakh company, and we camped out in this environment. And these kids were super cool. Like, they're incredible. They master the horse. You know, if you look at them, they do it with such ease. And yeah, if they are tiny. I mean, there's if you ever, I don't know if you can show people on it, like, to cut to this, but there's a video of me where I'm riding a horse and I'm honestly shitting myself. When you see how easy they are doing that, it's ridiculous how, you know, when you're on top of this horse, you don't feel confident at all. But, you know, they basically grow up. It's the same as us, I guess, putting like Vegemite on our toast. It is just hand in hand with the culture. The next one is Silverton.
Yeah, such a more useful skill than
riding a horse and putting Vegemite on toast.
Yeah, they're bosses. You know, they just like they're whipping the horse slightly just to make a move, but they have complete command and control over them. And when you see how big you know, when you're standing next to a horse, you actually don't, you know, when you're visually seeing it, you're like, wow, these are enormous creatures, and to be able to command the horse, it's really impressive. I saw you guys you interviewed. Did you interview?
Yeah,
Johnny D.
Yeah, so I remember I
hope you showed him the picture.
Well, we didn't. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. I didn't know that you had seen him until we got back. So the way I actually saw it as well was I was just scrolling hashtags of John Dinan, I think, or like
No
Silverton
way.
or something, and I saw this photo. I was like, oh, that's dope. And I looked and I was like, oh, no way, it's Matt's photo. That's so sick. But yeah, so
There's an actually interesting story there. This is the first job opportunity I ever got as a like travel writer, surprisingly. So I ended up like, as the universe sort of works, I bumped into this other guy one day who worked for this. It was a sort of like off the beaten track Australian travel camping publication, and he always saw my work and was just, you know, really enjoyed it. And then he just said, you know...
What are you laughing at?
Sorry, I like, way back when you said I bumped into like another guy, I just, in my head, I was like, oh, you seem to be bumping into a lot of men, Matt.
You know, okay, let me just, before I tell this story, I just tell you how my life works, okay? I'm one of those people who just, there's not, you know, if I make a direct application to someone, I never get anything. Nothing ever arises in a conventional sense. I always end up getting opportunities from just being out somewhere or doing something without even considering it. I don't know why that works, but I do honestly just bump into random people. This guy, I think I saw him in Newtown one time, but I met him in my travels. Part of the reason I think it works is they understand how I am and I interact with people. I'm pretty nonchalant about things and I don't really take things too seriously. And maybe when I'm trying to do things officially and formally, doesn't come across the same way. But yes, I bump into a lot of people, and a lot of the time, random things happen, including this one. So, yeah, he just said you would just have to go to places that you want to go to and then write things about the things you enjoy, and then you just pitch the story to us and we'll probably just say yes to it.
That's the dream.
How good is that?
Yeah, it was awesome. So I ended up going this. So I did a road trip for 3 weeks. I think I went from Sydney to Mungo National Park, but I went through through this area, and because I like Mad Max, and I wanted to go check out the plains as well. And yeah, this was it. I hired this dirty, disgusting rental van, and I was sleeping. I think I slept outside that strip, and I went there for sunrise and had a little walk around. But yeah, that's sort of quite cool, because it was sort of when I had the first chance to actually get paid to do something I actually wanted to do. The next one is Cozzy. Cozzy, I love this trip. So that's next to me is Tom. He's one of my best mates. He and I, we went to the national park, and if you haven't been before, in summer it is a walking paradise. Have you been?
Yeah, we've been.
We've both been, yeah.
How good is it? It's just like complete opposite to when you're going skiing there in the winter.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful place. And just the colors that exist once you get to that altitude, so different to anything underneath, and the vegetation, so beautiful.
Dude, like, it's funny, we, have you been there more than once?
Not to the summit.
Yeah.
I've been to the summit once.
So we went to the, we obviously, summit, get to the top, and then, but when we were there, it was just, the weather was so rough, so windy and cloudy. Dude, we get to the summit, bro, I couldn't even see Josh, 2 meters in front of me. It was just, there's a video on, I just took a dad cam, and, there's just a video of us on the top. I watched it the other day. It's so funny. I need to show you after this. It's just wind just harassing our face. And I'm like, dude, we did it. We're on the top and the wind's just pushing against us. It's so funny. It's you're at the top. It's beautiful. And from what I can see in that photo, stunning. But we didn't see any of it when we were there.
Yeah, well, that's where most people don't get actually see it. I think if you click on the geotag and you click on it, most people's pictures are actually they'll either make a joke about it being, top most the highest point in Australia, and we couldn't see anything. I mean, I think it's pretty common, but yeah, it's a really, really cool hike. That point is probably not the best view if you're looking at inside that national park, but that was a really interesting time, because if you go in there in summer, you would have probably experienced those flies, but they're the ones that sting you. They're enormous. They're sort of okay, I think you would have missed them then. I don't even know what their names are, but they just we erected a tent down in a valley and sat in the tent because they were biting everywhere. Eventually at sunset they came down. Yeah, I don't know their names. They're sort of the size of maybe a peanut. Maybe just smaller than a peanut. I don't know if for you guys, this is just as an FYI, your screen's frozen. If I'm still talking, then I'll keep talking. Okay, I'll just keep talking then. And yeah, that was one of the really enjoyable hikes on the trip. And that was I think if my memory serves me correct, that was at the start of or the first time the lockdown finished. I got to go out and I went on this trip there, and then I went to Yamba as well. So that was super nice. And then the last one is actually I like the fact that you actually picked this one, because the picture doesn't actually truly summarize what the hell happened, because this was the moment I thought I lost my drone. I took that picture just before I flew my drone. I got distracted, and then it was running out of battery, and I literally I think it was coming down because it was running out of battery. I had to jump, dive, and grab the drone in my hand. I shat myself because I just bought this new drone. I just bought it, and I found this rocky area which is so beautiful, and I then got, because when you're looking, the way I did it was I flew it super high, and then I tilted it down so it was directly looking down at the ground. But then I lost my bearings and was trying to do the return to home, but the battery was so low. And then I ended up finding this bloke who was on the horse. I followed him as quickly as possible, ran, jumped to grab it, I got it, and then he was sort of just around there afterwards. I just took a picture, but yeah, I was extremely.
Did you play cricket as a kid?
Yeah, there you go, dude.
There it is, paid
Like
off.
the skills.
Didn't know it.
In the one moment, it all led to that.
Yeah, didn't know it at the time, but you were just practicing to save your drone. That's crazy how, like, someone can look at that photo and think, oh, what a beautiful scene that is. Like, that's such a beautiful subject and like a lovely background. I wonder what it would have been like to be there. But for you, it was just the
serenity.
realities.
Like, it's like, oh, that's so amazing. He was probably just there, like, you know, writing or meditating. It's just like you were just legging it for your drone just to catch it.
Honestly, you know, I was swearing so much. You don't want to hear the words that were coming out of my mouth. But I think what I actually did, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, in what is the real unfiltered, what is the, you know, the not so glamorous side of things. I'm pretty sure I put up a video separately in my story somewhere where I explained what the hell happened, and I was nervous and panicking and anxious. Just to have you have to always have them together, because I don't want people to think that, because you can easily have a highlight reel on here which is just gonna make people depressed, and I don't want that. I don't want people probably not even follow me, I guess. If they just see your stuff and they think, oh, he's just having the best time, they won't support you and follow you. You have to have this weird, you can't have too much of a good time, but you can't be like Debbie Downer, and you have to also be humorous. So somewhere in that range, and people will probably get around you.
And I think that's almost called reality.
Yeah.
Like just showing the real things. And I'm a huge like fan of your like Instagram and your Instagram stories, like the chocolate vlogs that you just like chuck up, and it's just like little recaps of your day. And I think just in those, like, I don't know, maybe it's a minute long, like 10 stories or whatever it is, 6 stories, it just captures so many emotions and like the reality of it in such a beautiful way. And I think you add the humor so well. You add the struggle and kind of like the, I guess, rectification and the good parts.
Oh, thank you. I try my best to try to entertain you guys with my joke of a life.
Yeah, and that is the key. I honestly think the key to like why you can do what you do and love what you do is your ability to laugh at life. I think for so many people it's so rare because they want it to be so much. They want it to be so important and so grand. Hence, like, people investing so much in their jobs, like their clothing, their careers, all of this stuff, their houses. But like the truth is, if you can just laugh, you can walk around in like t-shirts that you got for free, you know, food that you bought for $1 and just laugh because you're filming yourself, like freaking making videos for whoever to watch. Like, it's fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to let your ego go. You have to accept that people are gonna like look at you funny. That's the nature of when you make content. You do look like an idiot. I have so many, you know, as you said, you have to have a laugh because I, you know, one of the things that I know always happens is if you meet someone who does this sort of thing, I mean, I don't think I'm one of those as intense people who are doing it, you know, it's flogging themselves on the video or making trending reels or TikToks. I don't do it to that extent, but when someone's like, oh, you're a travel blogger, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I walk around with a stick and I record myself and I talk really loud, and I'm, you know, you have to take the piss out of it as well, because if you don't, you just get too protective, and I want people to, you know, if you laugh at yourself first, they won't insult you, or if anything, you just make it funnier for everyone, and it's easy afterwards. They respect you, because I mean, I know that I'm mucking around and having fun, but I also trust that the content that I make when I'm doing it properly is good quality. So you have to do two, right? You can't just joke around but not do the work, and you can't just do the work and not be fun.
For sure, man. How important was it for you, like when, and you're still like in building phase, I guess, but building your brand and establishing like Matt Cheok? How do you say your last name? Is it Cheok?
Choc, like chocolate.
Okay, Cheok. Okay, hence
the
chocolate. Okay.
That's why it's chocolate, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So establishing that brand, how important was it for you to be genuine? Because the way I see it is like a lot of people like with online presence will build a brand, and I guess we're in early days of that. And to be genuine means you never have to worry about like who's watching you, because you can, if your brand's genuine to you, you can always just be that way. But if it's an altered version of you, you really have to be aware. And I imagine that would come with such a stress of feeling like almost clocking on and clocking off, like, all right, put on the show, go and do that, and then come off and now be yourself. But by being genuine, yeah, you might not get as big as you like would if you were kind of a false version of yourself, but it's just such a, in my opinion, like a better life to live, and a lot more liberating.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because it's not even restricted necessarily to like how you present yourself, but even like the type of work that you're putting up. Because if you create a certain style of what you do and you can't adapt, you don't get anywhere. So maybe that's probably a little bit confusing. I always wanted what I was doing to be accessible to people. Like, I just don't want people to go traveling. If we're just purely talking about on a travel sense, because I can split it into the two. If you're going traveling, I don't want you to go to the place that I've just been to, and then when you get there, think, well, that was not anything that he just put up. The pictures, the videos, nothing, like that was not my experience, or I can't even connect to it at all. I want it always to be, if you obviously you're not going to take the same picture as me if I'm doing a certain style, or if I use my drone, or if I have a certain lens. But fundamentally, if you go to the location, it's going to be close or similar to, depending on the season, what I've just done. So I want to always make it accessible. I also don't want it to be something where you're priced out by like me doing it in luxury. We can't talk about the same thing in Antarctica, it's a different beast, but generally speaking, how I travel, that's what I would want to focus on. And then for the aspect of just having this, me being the front facing aspect of like the business that I run as a sole person, I think from the beginning, if you don't try to be honest with yourself, you will never be able to like sustain it. And to be honest, part of the reason why it was so easy to do is because I actually really like what I'm doing. You can't fake, if you're having a good time, you can't fake not having a good time. So when I went from went from doing something I wasn't super interested in and going then to something that I like, I don't think the transition was so hard, but you just have to make a effort to remind yourself what you're doing is, like it's fun. You can't not have fun. It is just show it through your emotion, show it through your enthusiasm, and you don't have to always be enthusiastic necessarily, but I think for the most part, as long as I've woken up and have a bit of coffee and I'm ready to go, it's pretty.
Do you like, obviously you are where you're at now, which is like amazing. Do you have, and we were talking about in terms of the unknown and how good that is to be in that unknown, but just be on a path. It's like, what does your path look like ahead of you today, I guess? Like where are you looking to head to in the next, I don't know, whatever you see your medium to long-term goals time period is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had some thoughts about that many times, and I always have to adjust it. Now, like, one of the funniest things is I set myself 2 rough-ish tasks that I wanted to achieve in this career, and then I could be like, oh, well, I'm pretty happy I made it. I made it in the sense of what I wanted to do out of this. And actually, one of them was get to Antarctica without having to support it yourself. So I got to actually do it, which is crazy. I never thought I was going to do that, to be honest. But I went on 3 trips, so that's pretty cool. But I think fundamentally what I want to do is, the goal always for me was to be flexible with the end, because I still am so fresh and new, and I just want to take every opportunity that comes forward, and every way that it's pivoted so far has gone to a place I was never expecting. So in a weird way, there's more of a stability sense that I maybe like to have a base eventually where I can just keep coming to and from. But in a career sense, that's still really unknown, and I don't think it's a bad thing to not know it, because the breadth of where it can go, it could, you just have to be conscious of what you can do with this, and it's amazing because you can go, if we're talking strictly what are the streams that are maybe on offer for someone who's interested in this career, for someone who's thinking, I like tourism, I like travel, I want to do it. One could be travel blogger, one could be photographer, one could be videographer, but then you could also be a guide, you could run your own travel business, you could do something in like university or something like that as a lecturer or something like that. But it's so hard for me to tell right now. I think really what I want to do is just continue to build up a network of people that I'm interacting with, and also just continue to still see the things that I want to see, which maybe sounds really selfish. I still want to hit a few more places up. Hit a few more places up. It's just, as long as I know that I'm doing a little bit better than I was yesterday, and still have insight roughly that I'm in a growth mindset and going in that direction, the challenge is not so difficult. And that's why maybe it doesn't really make any sense in many ways. But for me, I just know that right now is, imagine you're like, you've got this, that machete, and you're trying to cut through the vines, but you just don't know where at the point in time you have that enormous breakthrough. Because I think there's still this point for me where I'm really close. I don't know what specifically the breakthrough is, but I'm feeling like I'm super close to it. And once that happens and it arises, then there's a new pivot. But I don't lie to people. Like, I'm still trying to work it out. I'm still having a go, but part of it is just this weird, you have to be consistent, you have to be determined, and you have to just keep going, even if you doubt yourself sometimes.
100%. It's you focus on the process, and the outcome is inevitable. And a lot of the time we don't know the outcome. We don't have a desired outcome, but we have a process that we like. And as long as we can focus on that and keep doing that, keep cutting through the vines, the outcome, whatever it may be, is inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the thing that maybe people don't consider when they're wanting to make a change in what they're doing. They think, the trajectory is I want to be here at this time, or like, what is the trajectory for me at the end? And sometimes maybe I'm naive in many ways, but sometimes it's absolutely fine to not know, and that's what makes it really beautiful. All those stories that you might hear from people who went from nothing, and then all of a sudden they made it. It was not overnight. Usually it's you worked like a dog, hustled super hard, had no one listening or supporting you, and then you had the breakthrough, and then all of a sudden all of that momentum you brought with you just smashed through it. But yeah, I'm happy with a simple life. I never was one of those people looking for something enormous in a material sense. I just really just wanted to just have a go doing this, and yeah, it's been a really nice adventure. So.
Awesome.
Where and when did you learn Spanish? Because you mentioned that before.
Yeah. Also, ran into it.
Bumped into another man.
I bumped into a girl, actually. I bumped into a girl in Sweden when I was on exchange back in 2014, and she was Spanish, and we ended up dating for 2 and a bit years. And this will go into a segue for you because you're going to enjoy this. I don't know whether you want to use it or not, but continuing on from me being a joke, my life being a joke, I flew to see her family and spend Christmas with her, and I didn't speak a lick of Spanish. I could say hola and gracias, and that's about all. So I said, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna impress the mum. I'm gonna before I arrive, I'm gonna get this, go on Google Translate or get a book and write this really nice, hello, Mrs. Echale. This is my name is Matt. I'm like here, and it's a pleasure to meet you. All this really formal stuff. I was 21 years old. I was a moron. A moron. And I went in there and I knocked on the door and I said let me just try my best, because I was trying to recall what I was about to say. And we opened the door and I had this monologue ready to go, and she looked at me and she sort of cut through me in that moment, and I froze for a second and I said, shit, I can't remember what I need to say. I recorded everything in my brain. I memorized it. And then she looked at me and she just started laughing, and I said, I was laughing as well, and I said, just let me try to say it. And it was just the most disgusting thing you ever heard. But in the period on, I ended up actually learning it just through a grammar book, and I traveled through South America and Mexico. I think I've totaled almost 2 years or something through that part of the world, and use it pretty much all the time. I mean, I'm using it today. I used it on the ship. I used it in all places. So yeah, it's pretty handy in that sense.
Yeah. Did you find like immersion was kind of the best way to learn it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always cool to start off with a reason for why you want to study. If you just want to study for the sake of having the language, I don't think you get very far. So you need a muse, and a lot of people's muses are their partner or potential partner, or impressing in a potential partner or family member. Do you have one?
Yeah, no, that's Josh's reasoning. He's trying to find his future partner in South America. No.
Hey, well, if you wanna, let me walk around outside after this, and I'll share your Instagram details, and
yeah, with everyone.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'll be a queue of lovely people.
Yeah, that'd be sick. But no, I'm actually learning Spanish at the moment. One of my friends is fluent, and he like offers free lessons. So in my mind, like, if I have this resource here for a short period of time. Oh wait.
Why? Every time we touch the headphone.
Wait. Oh no. Yo, sorry. Our screen just went small. How the frick do I get it bigger? There we go. Sorry, yeah. So my friend is fluent and offers free lessons. So in my mind, if I have this resource, why would I not use it? And it's also a language I really want to learn. I have this draw to South America. I haven't been there yet, but I just know that I want to travel a lot of South America. So, and also the idea of like, how sick would it be if I could like learn this language and then meet my future wife overseas while speaking Spanish?
Look, it goes a long way. In many ways, it is helpful. I will give one tip. I don't like giving tips, but I'll give one tip. The tip for learning language, or at least what helped me, was just speak and don't be scared to make mistakes, because the amount of times that I progressed faster than most people did, because I wasn't scared to talk, and I made heaps of mistakes, and people would just say, oh, like, you shouldn't say that, or I'd say, correct me, but don't correct me on every single word, just to help me like get some confidence up. But I was always talking, and I don't think twice about what I say anymore. It just comes out. And the biggest barrier for a lot of people is actually they're very competent, but they're too scared to talk. And, for example, you go down to Bondi, or you go down to Manly, and you go to the Gasinola, or you go to a bar and you meet people. Just, even if you don't speak very much, just have a go. The amount of times that you can improve it, just in little ways, super handy. But yeah, through osmosis, by listening to it and being involved, and then just book a flight and come here. You have no choice. If you can't speak Spanish in places, well, you don't survive. So you have to sit down in a cafe and you have to learn the words.
You got to figure it out, 100%, man. And I think what you said, like that tip you gave, is the best tip. And for me, I think we can learn so much off kids and babies and how they like learn and grow. And when you look at kids like a child that's learning to speak English, they're not afraid to mess up. They just speak whatever comes out of their mouth, and yellow sounds like lello, and they make all these mistakes, but that's how they learn. And I think they have no reason to not believe in themselves, and it's so innate in them to just start speaking, and that's kind of the process. And I think we have it so good until we lose all that confidence, and bullying comes into play, and all of these issues that arise, and that's when people stay on that trajectory. But like, look at how a child would learn a language and do what they do, like just start speaking it, and it's beautiful that you have the exact same approach.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't even lie to you, when I was learning it, everyone was giving me everything for my accent that was coming through. It's the same as even now, because I speak the Castellano, which is the Spain Spanish, and here in Argentina they laugh at me because of the way that I pronounce the C. So when and the words that I use. So as long as you just, I mean, look, it's better. You just have to say, well, is me being able to speak it better than not speaking it? And then it's a really easy thing, because no one's going to actually insult you as well when you're the one communicating in their language. It's actually, they will appreciate it. And most people don't actually have anything nasty to say. It's just the people who are really salty and jealous that you can speak it or you're learning it, and they feel like, they want to be better than you. A lot of it is the jealousy aspect of not wanting you to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. That's like all forms of hate are, a lot of it stem out of just people's own insecurities and jealousies.
I mean, I got asked so many times, I still get asked the same question. There are still people that don't want me to do well. There are people that the first question they ask me is like, but how can you do that? Is someone giving you money? Or like, I don't know how you have the chance to do that. Or, there's some people that's just how they are. And, look, I don't really care because I'm in Argentina. I mean, it doesn't affect me, but it's, you see, well, the reason why is because they may be not happy with what they're doing. So, I don't hold it against them, but at the same time, I don't let, I take it with a grain of salt. I don't let those, unless it's someone I trust, I don't have any care for what they say.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And that's how it has to be that way.
How are your reactions, I guess, online and maybe when you are in these countries? Do you have any pushback, if any? And I guess, how do you deal with it if you get any?
I don't get any, so are you talking about hate from followers or something like that?
Yeah, just anyone online, I guess, or maybe, I guess, anyone you interact with, but mainly online.
Oh, look, to be honest, I don't get any hate from anyone really. It's just more, I guess, if it was a interaction with someone that is, what's the word, a little bit salty about the fact that you do that as your job. The people that follow me on my account are super supportive. Everyone's always giving me really lovely words. I mean, also, let's be honest, if I'm promoting a country, how can you shit on me? That's the way I see things, or well, you don't like what I'm doing, but I'm actually showing you the best of this country and some funny observations. If you want to take it that seriously, have a good life. But I think fundamentally, the people that are on there are genuinely invested. I mean, I met one of the most amazing things for me, which I'm just this average Joe, but this lady who was in her 60s, she was from the United States. She was in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan the same time I was there. I don't know how I still don't really understand the details of how she was following my account, but she said her daughter was following my account and then recommended my account to her. But anyway, she messaged me and asked if we could get a coffee, and she said, if you need a transfer, I'm going to Uzbekistan, I can take you for free. I know money's not an issue for me. And I was just like, oh, well, I really appreciate it, but I'm actually staying here for a bit. But we had a coffee, and I never met her before. I still really don't know how she knows my account, but we met in person. She was the sweetest lady. She shared some really beautiful stories. We had a lovely conversation. And at the end of it, I just thought, well, wow, someone genuinely cares about the stuff that I put out. I mean, look, I don't know how much value I'm adding to other people's lives, but it's just like, I don't know, if you sit there on the toilet and you're a little bit like, I don't have a travel diary to look at to make myself feel a little bit better, but I can watch this bloke do some pretty stupid things and get a little laugh out of it, then that's what I'm there for, or just as a symbol for having a try, and maybe something good can happen out of it.
100%. That's so sick, man. Like, and I will definitely say, and I've said it before, but like, dude, you're such an inspiration to me. Like, your photography is just so awesome, and I draw so much inspiration from it. So I'm definitely that guy sitting on the toilet looking at your photos like, man, I can't wait to explore Kyrgyzstan. I can't wait to travel to all of these places.
Well, I'm curious. I don't know if this should be in the potty, but what did you end up getting a camera?
Yeah, no. So I have a A7 III, but I have a 24-70. But I was messaging you about lenses because I want to get a 70-200. But one of my mates was telling me, I was talking to him, and he was just saying that like, he doesn't want to have two lenses due to like inconvenience. So he's just gonna get the Talman does I think it's a 24-200. And because he's going to India and Vietnam in January, so he's just gonna get that and use that. But I think I want like dual lenses. I just don't see why I wouldn't want to have that.
Yeah, that just comes down to the only time that it's not super smart idea is if you're in like a harsh environment like Antarctica, where you should probably have two bodies, which I didn't. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole. But having the option of the change, I think it's inconvenient sometimes because you just maybe want to walk out with your camera and you don't want to have to carry the other one. But if you've got a mirrorless, I mean, it's worth it. You can get some really crispy shots.
But yeah, no. So I'm keen to get that lens. It's just a matter of biting the bullet and paying the money.
That's that actually, I will say that, we were talking about what are the maybe less glamorous sides of what I'm doing. The investment I have to make in my gear and the editing software and all the subscriptions I pay is outrageous. Yeah. You don't want to know how much I've put into that.
So what is your gear setup? Like, what do you carry around?
What's the EDC?
What's that?
Everyday carry.
Oh, eats.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would have known that. I was like, oh, and I was like, no, I got it. Normally what I carry is, I've got a Canon 5D Mark IV, which is a mirrored camera. It's my girlfriend. And then honestly, I have to service it so bloody much that it's the only thing I'm putting money towards. I haven't been putting money towards anything else. So I've got that, and then I've got a couple of different lenses, plus the extender. I bought an extender recently for Antarctica. And then I've got a drone, the new DJI Mavic Mini 3. That's amazing. And then I have a vlogging setup separately with my GoPro, and I've got a laptop just to edit everything. And then I've got also just about, I think 7 hard drives and batteries and different things. So it's just a massive setup. It's very heavy. I won't lie to you. It's close to 15 kilos, I think. Just camera gear.
Yeah.
Damn. So do you travel with 2 bags or?
Yeah, I can show you actually. I don't know if am I allowed to do that on the.
Yeah, go for it, dude. You can do it every.
So this is the backpack that I use every day. It's really good because I'm not going to plug them because they don't sponsor me. Jokes. Sponsor me, guys. No. So it has like just a separate laptop section here, and then the cool thing about this bag is it's got a side access, so really handy if you're a photographer. But basically, you can open it up. I'll just do it here really quickly to access your camera. Yeah, so then that area is where my lenses are. And it just separates everything without damaging anything. And then I've got just a separate I think it's a 65 litre Osprey bag, and that just has some clothes. I don't have very much. Close to. I have some random things in that backpack right now, from being given things from people as gifts. But yeah, it's pretty much it's your everyday setup. I mean, I just have the only thing, I guess, what's something that's perhaps random that I have in there. I have a Carlpack hat, the hat that you might have seen in some of my videos and pictures. I have that, which folds down, but and then maybe a couple books that I don't really know why I have them there, because I have a Kindle, but yeah, pretty much it's all they're all functional. The only one thing that I do have there that's a luxury item is my Ability Mocha espresso machine, and that is, I refuse to not, you know, the Bialetti Mocha, it's like an Italian little 2-cup thing where you can make your own coffee. You put grounded beans into it and it heats the water up and goes through, sort of like that. It's sort of like that. It's the Italian little teacuppy type one. It's an aluminium setup, and I always take it. Trust me.
You need to get on the we have a nano press. So I take it, like when we hike, like we'll take that. So dude, like literally, like, yeah, just hiking with that thing, just beans, and then you just boil water.
Because it's espresso.
So it actually just creates
you
espresso.
Pump it, build up pressure.
Oh,
so good.
And it's just like tiny little, like, you know, yay big. Just like, oh, it's the best thing. It's so good. So I feel you in terms of that being an...
You have to. I mean, if you think about it, it's like a lot of people, when they're working full-time job, they don't want to buy coffee out because, you know, it's, you know, over time it builds. It's the same as when you're here. I go through cups and cups a day, but if I have at least a few of these here and I can have a good coffee that I enjoy, not a crummy, you know, the instant one where you're just paddling in.
Instant. They're filth, dude. Like, we should get to a point where we stop calling that coffee.
Yeah, because
it's not coffee.
I've had that in many places this year, and I had to actually say it was coffee for me in that moment because I had no other caffeine source.
Damn. So how have you found the coffee overseas?
In some places it's been fantastic, in others not so much. The coffee in Mexico is quite decent in the bigger cities. In Kazakhstan, the coffee is very good, surprisingly, and in most other places, not so much.
Yeah,
and that's why you only stayed there for a week.
Yeah, no, I don't like. The good thing is, I'm not. The substitute in a lot of those places is chai, tea, and you drink a lot of tea, and that's great. So it doesn't really. There's still a caffeine source, but you don't get the same. It doesn't hit you in the feels the same way sometimes.
What do you do physically to stay in shape, or at least healthy?
I would like to say that I go to the gym every day and I do push-ups and I go running on every other day, but I just don't have the luxury of a routine. A lot of it is actually just walking with this backpack. It's so heavy. You get a massive workout all the time. I'm walking everywhere. I do when I position myself in some places for a period of time, I do then go to the gym and I go pretty hard and I go running. But when I can't, a lot of it's just, I have a pretty crazy metabolism and I can just eat like a horse. So it just doesn't pile up. The main thing is just being active. And when I was in Central Asia, I did so much hiking. So typically the walking and the hiking is the main one. And then, you know, obviously if I have the chance to do some core stuff, I can do the core stuff at home sometimes with sit-ups and just using chairs to do presses or something like that. But yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do just because of the nature of where I am or not having a routine. That's the only thing I probably crave a little bit at the moment is like some sort of routine, but I've now got the time for it, so it's perfect.
That's cool. I think we have one of our friends is a travel vlogger, and that was the one thing that he said is just like not having routine after doing it for so many years. So he's come back to Australia and lives here now.
It's not who's the guy?
Luke Demant.
I chatted to him. I sent him some messages a little earlier on, just asking him for advice about how he does these things. That's one of the things I will say, as well as one of the challenges of going and switching careers is you have to lose the ego. Because like Luke's a pretty young guy, right? He's 20.
Yeah, he's 22. He's our age.
Yeah.
A lot of it is for a lot of people, they don't want to ask younger people for help or ask for assistance or like, how are you doing it? Because you guys, I'm 29. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but there are people who are 16, 15 who are killing it on social media because they know how to use it. If you're silly enough not to ask them the question, well, you're going to be left in the dust. So I'm cool with, I'm asking people all the time, how did you do it? What's the best way you would recommend me, like maybe going down this path, or what advice would you have for someone starting out? It's really important. And I asked Luke the same thing because he does YouTube. I'm really new to it. I don't know really how it works in many ways in terms of production and just the way that you can actually make it sustainable if you want to go down the YouTube path. But really impressive guy.
Yeah. I'm sure he would have given you some great advice. Just consistency. Is that what he said?
He's like, you got to be putting out a shit ton of videos. Don't worry if it needs to be cinematic. Don't worry about any of that. Just put the video out. People don't care about where you are. They just care about you, which is actually not even the lie.
Yeah, literally, man. Do you know World Nomac? I think that's his tag. He's one of Luke's friends. He's an American guy. I listened to a podcast that he was on, and he like had a setup. It was like drone, DSLR, and that's how he was making his travel vlog styles. And then once he met Luke had always just filmed on a GoPro, and like Luke basically just convinced him, and he switched over. And like in this podcast, he was saying how he was so set on like the products being the best it could be, and like really clean footage, really cinematic. And then Luke's like, dude, just get the GoPro, go raw. It's easier as well because you're kind of slick. Like you can film places and people don't know that you're filming because you have this tiny little camera. Whereas if you have a big fat DSLR, and he was just saying how it completely changed everything for him. And once he started doing that, it allowed him to like make more videos and kind of level up and pull in a bigger audience because he could output more.
Yeah, people get, they want to get that hit of dopamine. They want to see your video come out every like 2 times a week and you get excited. I mean, I do that same thing. I'm like, I want to watch their videos. Why are they not putting any videos out? It's if you think about that logic, yeah, for sure. And the results, the proof is in the pudding with what he's got, a really nice product. And that's the cool thing, he's another example of someone just decided he's got a really nice story about sort of where he came from, and it's good to see other people like doing well. I mean, that's what you want to always encourage other people to have a go, because he's living his dream. He just decided to have a try and it's working. So, good on him. I mean, I don't think 100%. Nothing good comes from, shitting on other people or like, not trying to like help them out. So, I mean, if you help someone else out, then at least someone else is doing better.
Yeah, 100%, man. And you're also doing better as well because if that's your outlook of wanting to help people, like you're already winning at life.
Yeah, and that's the same as like, with what you guys are doing is really cool. Like I really admire it. The fact that you can also have discourse and conversations with people, and it also helps you to see what other people are doing wrong or what they maybe wish they're doing better or what they're doing really well. And you just add that to your arsenal of, life experiences and perspective. I mean, it's really handy, especially, at such a young 100%. Age. You guys are 22?
Yeah.
When I was 22, I didn't know anything. Not that I know anything. Not that I know that much more. I didn't know anything. So you guys are killing the game, all right?
Appreciate
that a lot, man.
Thank you.
We've had like a lot of people say this to us recently. Like we had a guy on last week that he's, I think, 29 as well.
Yeah, Jason's 29.
And he said the same thing. And it's weird because I feel that I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I have this fear when people say that, like, oh, you guys are going to be like so good when you're my age. And I'm like, I don't feel that at this point in time. I feel like I know nothing. I feel like I'm freaking...
But I feel like that's the point.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just... Like, you should always be a student. You know what I mean? There's always more to learn. It's just like... Just putting yourself... I feel like maybe... And that's the essence of us starting this. Is just like our friendship was just so... growth orientated. So the way that just like we were interacting was just every time we interacted, it was so growth orientated. So I think maybe we can attribute some sort of understanding, or I guess, yeah, like what people say that as in terms of us, you know, knowing a lot at 22. It's just like, maybe it's just that. It's just we give ourselves the chance to grow or learn when otherwise we may not be, you know, if we're just sticking to existing, living for the weekend, etc.
Yeah, that's really important. Really important to do. And the main thing is your thinking. A lot of people just do that little thing where they slide these thoughts under the rug and they don't try to actually address it. So key is to actually action rather than just let it sit there in the inbox.
Oh, 100%. I think it's the lifestyle we live that allows that. We do a lot of hiking, so we're driving in the car long hours to go on this awesome trip for a weekend, and it's in that, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hour drive that random shit just comes up, and you talk about it, because what else are you going to do? Just sit there in silence? No. So we discuss these things, and I think having this time and then doing these difficult things together, like hiking a mountain, it's challenging. You're together, you're vulnerable, and there's a lot to dissect from it. There's a lot of knowledge within the hike that you can take and you know, use to expand yourself and the world, hopefully. So I think it's the behaviors that we choose as well, and people in general, like where we would prefer to spend a weekend hiking, other people might prefer to spend a weekend drinking. And it's not to say that one's right or wrong. It's just that I personally found I get a lot more knowledge out of hiking versus drinking alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's cool because the guy that you pulled the picture out of before, he and I go hiking all the time, and we have these drives, we do these walks, and we camp together where we just really shoot the shit and go pretty deep sometimes. That I think a lot of people see me maybe in the cosmetic sense of like always having fun and not really like worrying too much, but I can have very deep, productive and insightful conversations with him when we just get out into nature, because there's something really beautiful about moving, like whether that's in a vehicle or on foot, and to have this thoughts come in and out but never sort of sit there. When you're stationary, I think a lot of the time that's the same as what the thoughts process, and the thoughts that are in your head also do the same thing. But where you're out there and you have the like beautiful environment around you, you can actually, I don't know, have a more valuable dialogue.
110%, man.
Definitely.
Is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything that you would like to say?
Not really. It's purely. I'm happy to just sort of come on and just share the story. It's really just a matter of getting people to understand that, you know, you can do things if you want to do it. Just don't think too much about it. You've probably thought about it a million times already, which is enough to make a choice. But my old man, he always says this to me. It's so funny. I love to say it because I gave him shit for so long about this saying, and we all have it. We all joke about it at the family table all the time. And he always says, "He who hesitates is lost." And even though, you know, we laugh about it all the time, it actually is probably the most important advice, because, you know, I remember sitting at my desk and I had the resignation thing. I just had to sign it and then give it to my boss. And it's the same in many other circumstances where you think, and then maybe you think a little bit more, and then you just don't do anything because you say, oh, maybe wait till tomorrow. If you don't make the decision is made for you, and it's not the decision you want or the outcome you want. And yeah, as long as you just make the choice and you are okay with living with it, that's okay. And usually in hindsight, if you are too hard on yourself, you just have to think that you made the best decision in the circumstances, and that helps you not regret anything. And that's sort of how I've gotten to this point, because I could, you know, in COVID, one of the funny things was I could have just gone back to the job. Actually, I could have gone back and I'd have a house now probably, but I chose not to. And that's a choice that I made, but I know that I made the right choice for me. And I actively decided to just okay, let me go to Mungo National Park in this car and sleep in the vehicle and continue to do all these random things, and it's led me all the way to here, and the journey is open. It's not like there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I'm not sure where it's going to take me, or whether something will happen, but I'm living and resting peacefully every night, knowing that it's going to be a pretty cool adventure next day.
Oh, 100%, man.
Yeah.
There's such an outlook that I always have is like in those pivotal moments of like, oh, do I resign? Do I make this drastic change? It's like the worst thing that happens. You can probably just go back. Like whether the same firm won't accept you, you can just go to another one, and you're doing the same shit anyway. You're going to meet people you like. Like it's inevitable that you can just go back to that life. But what you can't do is create the life that you're living right now. You can't just go back to that life because you haven't like established it.
Yeah, I mean that's even how the inception of the decision came. It was I was on the bus going to work, and I had this I was looking out on the same route that I always took, and I was looking at this I had this sort of flash forward where I was thinking, okay, where am I going to be in 20, 30 years time? And I had this vision. Sounds so lame, but I had this vision where I was looking out, and I had a really nice house. I had a good position. I had a family, but I looked in the mirror, and in the mirror, my face. There was no emotion, and I didn't feel alive. And that spiraled me into some.
That's powerful.
That's massive, dude.
So that still remains the reason. I think it was always coming, and I knew that it was going to be gone, but it was like one of the most salient moments where I just decided, yeah, it is time. I've hit the point where there needs to be a decision now, or I'm not going to not be in a good place later on.
What a powerful moment.
And you actually actioned it, which is beautiful. I feel it makes me think about how many people have that vision, like similar to you. However, it comes about to them, but don't action it. Like there's probably more so than not.
There's also an easy way to do it as well. What you can do is, I said this to many people who don't like their job. I said, do this. Write up your resignation letter completely. Put it on your desk in a really easy to access place. And this is on the proviso that you don't want you have steps to leave. And if it just is really that bad, just sign the bloody paper and give it to your boss, and you're done. There's a period of time where you start typing it up, and then you decide, no, I won't do it. But if you just have it there, all you need to do is put the date and sign it. The ability to make you're trying to provide the point of least resistance in that circumstance. If you get to the point where you don't want to be there anymore. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's a proven formula, but I sort of think that's how if you've said, I don't want to be here anymore, I don't like this anymore. Well, that's one way to sort of overcome it, because there's less things you have to do to make, to talk yourself out of it. So far, I don't know anyone who's actually done that yet, but if you want,
it makes sense to you for someone who has done it.
Yeah, if you want a template for it, you could do it.
We do this thing at the end of every podcast where we get our guests to give us a challenge to carry out throughout the week that the pod will be released. It can be anything big, it can be anything small. It's generally related to what we've been speaking about, but take your time and give us a challenge for whatever you want. You can carry it out as well, and anyone listening if you want to.
Well, the thing I had was just a really basic one, but I just always like the idea of it is just pay something forward for someone.
It's simple, it's compoundable, it's great.
That's probably what I would do. I'll do the same thing.
Awesome.
That's a sick challenge, man. It's so beautiful.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. How long have we actually chatted for? A long time. 2 and a bit
2 hours.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to diving into all your future content. You've got me hooked, especially knowing all your story and stuff too.
Hi,
It's
I'm
just
Kyle.
it's awesome.
I'm Josh.
And dude,
this
yeah,
is Two Guys,
I'm
One
sure.
Car.
I
Welcome
know
to
you
our
said you
car.
don't want to be trying to provide lessons to people, but
Yeah,
you're a really
start
good
with Two Guys,
example
One
of
Car.
someone who's
No,
just
it's the
gone,
name,
look,
it should start
It's
with-
I feel like
welcome to
I'm
our
just
car.
existing and I want to live
No, it
and
has to start
do
with
something
Two Guys, One
that
Car because that's
I
the name
desire
of the
when I'm,
Just,
you know,
just
sitting
get
on the
in the
toilet
back
at my law
right
firm.
along.
I really get into shit for this.
I love it, man. I love it.